ability to have a generative organization depends on psychological safety. My favorite leader probably would have been George Marshall. He was a person of great integrity.
Hello everyone, I'm Prachi and excited to have Ron Westrum, who is going to speak at the Leadership Summit 2023 about generative organizations for the future. Hi Ron, I'm excited for this discussion.
Thank you.
How are you, Ron?
I'm fine.
Thank you for joining us here. Ron, to know you a little better, can you describe yourself?
Yes, I'm a very old professor. How about that?
That's amazing.
Well, it's the truth.
Okay, so if you weren't professor of sociology, what else would you have preferred as a profession?
Well, I think the truth is that I started out as a sociologist of science. And I liked that a lot. And then I became a sociologist of technology. I like that a lot. But what I like the most is what I'm doing now, the study of information flow. And this is obviously very important for organizations. So I think I'm in the right area doing the thing that I've always wanted to do.
Amazing, amazing. How do you like to spend your free time?
Um, mostly reading. I'm a person, I have this unquenchable curiosity, and I like to read about lots of things besides what I do.
Okay,
I'm fascinated by art and poetry and things like that. But yes, so reading is actually what I spend a lot of my spare time doing as well.
okay. So if you have to gift a book to someone, which book you will give?
That's a really good question. It depends on the person. Probably I would give them my book on sociology of technology, and I have given it to people actually. Um, so yes, that's what I would give them.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about why should anyone join your session at the Leadership Summit 2023?
Well, I think leadership is probably the number one determinant of how organizations work. I study information flow, and I think the biggest argument I would make is very simply that leaders choose to have the kind of information flow that they typically get. If you have an organization that's run by a leader who's selfish, then we'd expect a pathological kind of information flow. And many of us, unfortunately, live in organizations where our leaders are just like that. If by contrast, you have somebody who's really into organizations and filling out the forms and doing it by the rules, then you get a bureaucratic culture. And you only get a generative culture, basically, if the leader decides that the most important thing in that organization is getting the job done, because that then puts aside hierarchy and it puts aside the quest for power and concentrates on getting whatever it is that the organization is doing done.
Okay, okay, that's great. So what are the three key takeaways from your session for the audience?
You want three. Okay, so the first thing is obviously the importance of leadership itself, because we tend to explain organizational culture as a variety of different influences and so forth. But the thing that has come across most strongly is the role of leader in setting the tone of the kind of organization that they have. And the second takeaway is that once you have that tone, there are certain kinds of things you can expect. If you have a generative organization, you'll have a far more efficient way of doing things. But the third takeaway is that ability to have a generative organization depends on psychological safety. So, the question would be, okay, so what if you have a generative organization? Will you have psychological safety? And the answer is you can't have one without psychological safety. Those are my three takeaways.
Thank you, Ron. Is there any leader who inspires you?
My favorite leader probably would have been George Marshall. the American commander of the Allied forces in the Second World War. He was a person of great integrity, and he spent an enormous amount of time making sure that people who were doing the jobs in his organization really knew what they were doing. And I simply like the level of integrity that he showed in everything. It's really amazing to find someone who essentially typifies what a generative leader should be like. And he was able to get the best out of people because he would always give them the best.
Okay, wow, that sounds great. Thanks, Ron, for being with us. Looking forward for the Leadership Summit 2023.
It is my pleasure.